Congratulations to all of you. Now your World Business Day is next. Now we've got something very big to talk about. Is this, and this is not about sports, because a registered and licensed asset management company called GTI is offering a concrete and innovative approach to revitalize the ecosystem of Nigeria's sports industry, including sponsorships, investments, and a whole lot more. Now, Nigeria and indeed Africa is considered a land of sports and supplier of talent, which unfortunately does not benefit from the huge economy around that industry. Joining me to discuss the economy of sports, the realities, and the Nigeria Football Fund project is Nelson Ine. He is the project director of that initiative, who is also an executive director at the GTI Asset Management and Trusts. Good to see you again, Nelson.
Yeah, it's quite
been a long time.
Very long time.
Been a long time. Good to see you here on the other side, out of the trading floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, now NGX. It's good to see you. This is very interesting, and I got picked when I saw this, that there's a fund targeting sports and football industry. And I've always wondered, how do we get necessary sponsorships, investments? I can see the whole multi-billion pounds or dollars around the EPL. So I salivate when I see these numbers, and I ask, what are you folks doing? So it's good news you are here. Tell me about the evolution of a football economy in Africa and Nigeria. Let's start with that, by the way.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bosin. Looking at the evolution of football and sports in Africa, initially football evolved as a social event, and it was more of peace-building kind of activity and uniting people, bringing everybody together. And that is why the government is playing a very significant role in that regard. And that is the evolution from time. But over the years, it became necessary to take a second look at sports generally. And if you want to go back to history, you realize that even the Olympics we watch today also had its own fair share of the social aspect of it when it started. And it took the Olympics almost about 84 years, about 80-something years to now commercialize the whole activities of the Olympics, and that came about in Los Angeles, 1984. And thereafter, even all aspects of sports these days, especially professional sports, is not seen as more again as a social activity. It's now seen more as business, especially professional sports. Yes, there's the social aspect of it, but there's the big business aspect of sports. And if you recall, even the FIFA today is projecting $7 billion to generate $7 billion revenue for this Qatar 2022. And the last highest figure they've generated in the past Olympic FIFA World Cup cycle is $6.41 billion.
Oh, hold on a second. And I'm looking at, if you look at the screen in front of you, you will see what the president of Freedom Acquisition Corp, Tijan Thiam, is an excellent banker. He spent many years in banking. He's from West Africa. He says sports is an economic sector that can contribute to the absorption of the 15 million young Africans arriving on the labor market every year. Is it talking to us in Nigeria?
Yes, it's talking to us. It's talking to us because, you see, sport is a universal language. It's the same tool used all over the world. If you look at the developed countries, America, Europe, they use sports significantly. So what do they use it for? They use it for the youth, to capture that energy of the youth, diverting that energy to very useful activities in the society. And with sports, you keep the youth engaged. And you keeping them engaged, meaning taking them away from a lot of social vices.
Interested. Look at what Tijan Thiam said just there in orange color. He said Africa needs to take a share of that particular huge market, and African entrepreneurs need to build businesses that move us from consumers into producers of content. African entrepreneurs build businesses that moves us in football. That's what everybody's talking about. That's from the ASCI. So if you find renowned international bankers such as Tijan Thiam speaking about it, that what you are saying is music to my ears, should be to investors' ears. Why had sponsorships and investments in Africa as a local sport, such as local football leagues, such a Herculean task in Nigeria? It used to be, and I remember as a young journalist, well, the days of mobile track and field, with Texaco, by the way, then still on the field. Quite a lot, I'm sure you remember. But those days were gone. So how did we get to this level in which the local Premier League, whatever, becomes not such an attractive market or business?
Yeah, you see, it's like every other sector. Every sector evolved over time. Even the banking sector has evolved over time.
But it got a whole lot better.
Yes, that's
the banking today is not what it was.
That's what I'm trying to talk about now.
Yes.
The capital market has evolved over time. The banking sector has evolved over time. So the same kind of evolution you expect in sport. And if people are not getting that commensurate level of involvement and improvement, definitely. One thing you must realize is that sports belong to the entertainment industry. And there are various components of this entertainment industry. It is the same target audience. They are all fighting to get their attention. You see that this music industry today, they've put their ads together in Nigeria and they are all over the world, selling all over the world. It wasn't like that some few years back. What is telling us is that the music industry have also evolved, improved on their acts, improved on a lot of things. And today, we Nigerians can sell our music to the whole world, and those young boys are doing very, 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 very well. And also our movie industry too, they've also stepped up their game. So we also expect sports. If you look at sports comparatively to where we are coming from, you realize that there's quite a lot to be done now. We need to, there needs to be a paradigm shift. We need to move away and comply with international best practices, the way sport is being managed all over the world.
What needs to change? Tell me. We're talking about the sponsorship and investment. Is it that we don't have the money, or what happened?
It's not about the money alone. It's not about the money alone. Yes, the money is not adequate. What we have is not adequate. If you look at sports today, it's basically government funded. The bulk of the funding is coming from government. That is not supposed to be the case. Like sometimes when I have opportunities to have discussions with even sports experts in the country, I ask them sometimes, what kind of model are we actually running? Because if you look at the sports model we are running for our professional league today, it's not just in line with what happens in other parts of the world where sports has been taken seriously as business. It's purely a private sector initiative, and it's purely seen from an investment perspective, not donation, not grants, but purely business. You invest in the sports ecosystem and you're expected to get some rewards in terms of benefits for your level of investment. It's just like Chelsea now that is up for sale. Nobody's talking about donation or grant. It's about investment. So if you're investing in Chelsea, you sit down, you look at the figures, you do your due diligence, and you invest. And you expect to get some returns at the end of the day, because over time, the sports property grows. It's just like estate. A well-maintained sports property is expected to improve in value over time.
Well, I'm not sure. When looking at the national stadium in Surulere, it doesn't look like a well-maintained one.
It's not.
It's not.
Definitely not. I mean, like you said, some years back, if you look at the national stadium and what you see today, you are amazed, because this is 21st century. This 21st century, we are supposed to have something far, far better than what we have presently. What's
the revenue potential of Nigerian football industry, and what could be its contribution to the GDP?
The revenue potential is very huge. It depends on the mindset in which these things are managed. If the mindset today is focused on business, then we are going to look at the old system again, which is what the Nigerian Football Fund is focusing on. We are going to change the narrative. It's no longer going to be social activities just for the sake of being social, bringing people together, but we are going to be looking at the business aspect of sports. There are a lot of components of revenue, a lot of revenue-generating components associated with sports activities. You have the TV rights, you have the gate takings, you have the sponsorship. You have quite a lot to generate revenue from. And if you look at the Nigerian environment, the potential is huge in terms of population, in terms of market, in terms of the talent, and in terms of the passion. It's because the local environment has not stepped up its game. That is why there's so much crave for foreign sports now. And you also know that some years back, 20 years back, 25 years back, it was all about American music all over Nigeria.
That's Nigerian music.
Yes, that was what we're used to.
We'll talk. We'll expand this conversation when we come back. Stand by, Nelson Ine, who is an executive director at GTI Asset Management and the project director for the Nigerian Football Fund. We'll be right back, everyone, into. Yes, we've got a 5 billion naira public offer for a mutual fund that targets a revolution in Nigeria's football, and the sports industry is currently on the market street. An executive director of the fund manager, GTI Asset Management, Nelson Ine, is my guest on Money and Sports tonight, and we're expanding our conversation. Thank God it's Friday. Nelson,
yes.
We haven't tried to resolve this about. In terms of sports ownership, and folks are asking why we lack sponsorships and investment, there are a few football clubs that are owned by certain state governments. We used to have Abiola Babes, and you have Iwanyanwu and the rest of them. Every big man in Nigeria wants to own a football club. Every governor wants to own a football club. Is that how to run it? Is that how it's run elsewhere in the world?
No, definitely not. No. Like I said, it depends on the focus. It depends on the focus and the mindset. If you are looking at it purely as a business venture, then there's more financial discipline that is required. There's more serious corporate governance issues that needs to be addressed. So, but if you find out now the way the football system is running now, a lot of those things are not given attention and they are not taken seriously. And because a lot of the investors, even in Nigeria, who are interested in coming into the sports sector, see that some of these things are not given serious attention, are not too encouraged to want to come in. So what is the whole essence of this fund now? Now, the initial offer is 5 billion. Actually, our expectation is far, far beyond the 5 billion. We are looking at hundreds of billions. Because if you look at the sports sector, we need to have some kind of improvement in our infrastructure. You just mentioned the National Stadium now. Ideally, the National Stadium can be taken over by private investors, and it could actually serve as a multi-purpose sports and social event venue to generate a lot of money.
A few days ago, the central bank governor and a few bank CEOs, members of the Bankers Committee and the Minister of Information and Culture were inspecting the National Arts Theatre, trying to put a private sector, banking sector money into the National Theatre. Is that the kind of thing you folks at GTI Asset Management would like to see with the National Stadium? Another sports facility across Nigeria, by the way.
Beyond the National Stadium, all sports facilities across the country.
The basketball court, the cricket pitch. We are looking at the football, basketball, sports hall, basketball, indoor sports hall. We are looking at the football pitches. We are looking at technology. You need a lot of technological input to drive a lot of these things. We are also looking at human capital development in terms of the technical crew. They need to be properly trained and retrained all over to ensure that they meet up with what is in line with international best practices. So you find out that once a lot of these things are put in place, for example, talking about infrastructure now, we look at our football fields where these matches are played. The pitches.
We need to upgrade them to a level where they are very conducive and they are very also friendly with
and the tracks as well for the athletes. Yes.
Tracks for the athletes.
Yes.
You're also looking at the terrace, the sitting pavilion, and all that needs to be properly improved upon. What about the media aspect of it, which is a very key component of the sports facilities? Because for sports, without media, sports does not have real value. And that is what
it's got to be watched by
because
millions of eyeballs. You need the eyeballs.
You can only pay for what you see.
That's what
you can only sell what people see. We are paying for EPL today because we can see EPL every day, per minute, per second. If they are not showing the matches, they are showing the highlights
on a digital satellite channel.
And the whole idea is connecting with your emotional, your emotions, and before you know, your
appetite.
Yes, you get
for consumption.
For consumption
of goods and services.
It comes at you per minute, per second, and at a point it becomes a part and parcel of your life. And you want to watch those matches. If they are not showing the matches, they are showing highlights. They are showing the EPL history.
Interviews.
They are taking the interviews, taking you down memory lane. They are bringing out a lot of statistics. They are showing a lot of video
and all of these are not there in Nigeria's Premier League.
Yes, but again, you see, if you have the right people in place who understand how these things work,
Okay, so let's talk about the money right now. That's why you are here, by the way. I wouldn't bring you here if you're not going to talk about the money. So we'll talk about 5 billion offer for subscription. This is quite a unique package. Tell me about the structure, the purpose, and the target investors for this initial curtain raising fund for Nigeria football.
Okay, the target investors, we are looking at high net worth individuals, high net worth investors. We are looking at corporate organizations, even in the public and private corporate organizations, and individuals to invest in this fund. So the whole idea is pulling these funds together to be able to intervene. You mentioned the thing about structure. If you look at the structure of this fund now, you have the custodian bank, which is UBA custodian. You have the trustees. You have the asset management fund, the fund managers, the asset management people. You have the registrars. So we are bringing a whole lot of corporate governance, financial discipline into the management, into the sourcing, management, and deployment of these funds. So what are we looking at? We are looking at targeting those areas of sports that requires funding that will actually activate the revenue channels for all these sports. Because that's the way it runs all over the world, whether with FIFA, whether with the NBA, whether with the EPL, La Liga, or Bundesliga, they all run under the same principles. The same principles drive all of them. And if you look at our Nigerian sports sector today, what you find out is that some of those channels are available actually, but the question is that are they optimally activated? And that is the answer is no, they are not optimally activated. So what do we need to do? We need to put the structures in place, and funding is very important in putting all the structures in place. Once those structures are in place, definitely, like I say, it will attract a lot of people. It will attract a lot of people, and the moment people get attracted to it, definitely the revenues will come.
Are you looking at this kind of fund that could be listed on any of the exchanges?
Yes, over time. That is why it's an open-ended fund. We believe that this fund is going to be in perpetuity. It's an open-ended fund. So like I said, the 5 billion is just the initial offering. So we're expecting this fund to grow because one of the objectives of this fund is to ensure like what is obtainable in other developed countries is to be able to contribute about 1 to 2% to the GDP. There are countries where sports contribute 3%, 4%, 5% to GDP. Look at the EPL, for example. If you look at the last audit report of the EPL contributed about 3.6 billion pounds to tax to the British government. And Nigeria has the capacity to do. I mean, look at our population, look at the economic dynamics of this country. We actually have the capacity to turn all these things around and deliver value to government, deliver value to all the sports stakeholders, the fans, the athletes, the administrators, and everybody.
Create jobs. I'm more interested in the jobs and the industries around it.
Create a lot of jobs.
Yeah, because for a Challenge Cup, for example, if you look at Liberty Stadium in Ibadan or the one in Lagos, or even
the one in Enugu.
Yes, or Kano. The whole small and medium enterprises around it.
What you see is the same principle guiding a lot of countries hustling to host the FIFA World Cup and hustling to host the Olympics.
Like the Qatar coming ahead.
Yes, like the Qatar now.
Yes.
You find out that what the whole idea is for them, you see, in sports management and sports events management and projects like this, you see, there are two aspects of the impact analysis. They look at the quantitative in terms of direct revenues and returns to investment. They also look at the socio-political impact. And the socio-political impact is very, very heavy. And in that space, a lot of sectors beyond the sports industry is affected, and the multiplier effect is huge.
Actually benefited.
Everybody benefits. It's a win-win situation. Once you get it right, it's a win-win for everyone.
So you have a game going on with a capacity of maybe about 5,000 folks but you have other thousands outside.
A lot of other thousands. Now, exactly like you said, that is why the media aspect of even our sports facility is very, very important, very key to the development of sports. It goes beyond the number of people in the stadium that are watching the match. You have a lot of people watching all over the world. And one thing you must also remember is that look at the last Olympics. We are so blessed with a lot of talent. We have a very youthful population. Sports can provide a lot of jobs, not only football, basketball, volleyball, hockey, cricket, table tennis, lawn tennis. What about UFC? What about UFC? What about wrestling and boxing? You see, because our environment is not so conducive, what do you find? You find our talents all over the world, representing other countries, generating a lot of revenue for them, bringing honors and glories to those countries, like what happened in the last Olympics.
And just bring a few pounds or dollars home to spend.
Yes, to spend.
And
even if you look at the last Olympics, how many medals did Nigeria as a country win? Then you ask yourself, how many medals did Nigerians, athletes of Nigerian descent,
at home,
how many medals did they win for other countries? When you look at it too, athletes of Nigerian descent won more medals for other countries than the medals Nigeria won
under the green,
as a country.
Nelson, thank you. It's been a whole lot of music to my ears. It's going to be a TGI for me. And I love you guys bringing something new and creative into the sports industry. Thank you so much, Nelson. We wish you all the best on your project.
After several years, Faith has brought both of us together.
Thank you so much. That's Executive Director, GTI Asset Management.